Hey everyone, welcome back to Code with Poonam. It's day 57 of our 100 days of coding challenge in JavaScript. Today's challenge is all about encoding strings based on the character frequency. So let's move towards our VS Code and we will proceed with this challenge. Okay. So in the VS Code, if we see, we have here our question along with the sample input and output, right? So what is the question? We have to write a JavaScript function to encode a string based on the character frequency, right? And if we see here, we have been provided with two input and two output, right? So what is the input? Triple A, double B, and C. So this is a string, right? And we have in our output what? A3, B2, C1, correct? Now let us go for the another input. We have ABC. So what is the output? A1, B1 and C1. Okay. So we will understand this question. Okay. Before that, let us come here and break this question. So what we have to write? First, we have to write a JavaScript function, right? So we will come here and what we will write here? JavaScript function, because we have to write a JavaScript function. Okay. After that, what we have to do? We have to encode a string based on a character frequency, right? So let us come here and we will put this as well. Okay. Now, since we want to encode a string, so we will come here and we will define our function name as what? Encode string. So let us keep it like this here with the parenthesis. Okay. After that, what we are going to do, we will come here to the line number 12 and we will understand this particular line. Okay. So now let us observe our input. Okay. What is our input? We have what? Triple A, double B and C, right? So we can see how many times A is repeated? 3. That is where we get here A3. How many times B is repeated? 2. That is where we get here B as 2. And how many times C is there? Only 1. That is where we have C1. If you come to the another input also, you get here what? ABC, right? And you have here what? A1, B1, C1. So it is the same. So it is encoding the string based on the character frequency. So we are mentioning here how many times it has been repeated, or we can say how many times there is a frequency of that character. So that is what we have to do here. So let us come down and we will write here the approach. Okay, so let me just write here approach. Now in this question, first we are going to use our split method and we will be passing here what? Just a double quotes. That means without a space we are going to pass our string, because if we see here we don't have a space, right? So what we will do, we will just split it up, and what it is going to do, this method will split the string into an array of characters, right? So what we will get? We will get here as an array, right? So what I will write here, if we consider this input, what we will get? We will get A. Again, we are going to get A, right? After that, again, there will be A. Then we will get here what? B. And then again, we will get here what? B. And then we will get our C. So this is what it is going to happen when we are going to use a split method. Why? Because this method will split the string into an array of characters, right? Now, if you observe the output, how it is written? A3, B2, C1, right? So what we will do here is we will come and we will declare an empty object. So obj is equal to flower braces. We will create and keep it. And whatever we will get, we will store it over here. So that is why we are creating our empty object. Okay. So I will write here what? For loop, and inside the for loop we are going to write our if condition. Why for loop? Because we want to iterate over the each element, right? So that is why we will use a for loop. And why we are going to use our if condition? Because we want to count the frequency of each character, right? How many times that character has been repeated. So that is why we will use a loop, and inside that we are going to use our if condition also. Okay. So let us come down and let us see how we are going to write it. We will write here our for loop, and where it is going to start, it will start at what? I is equal to 0, because it's an array, right? So I will write here what? I is equal to 0, and where it will end? It will end at length minus 1, right? So I will write here what? I is less than arr dot length, right? Automatically it will consider till minus 1. That is why we are writing I less than, right? And then I plus we will write, and we are going to write here flower braces. Now inside this flower braces, we have to write a logic to count the frequency of each character. Okay. So what we will write? We will write here if condition, and in this we are going to use our object which we have created here. So I will write here what? Obj, and then we are going to write here what? square bracket we will write, and inside that square bracket what we are going to write? ARR of I. Okay, now I will tell you why we are using this square bracket ARR of Y. If you remember our previous challenges question, over there also I have explained you very clearly that we access our object properties by dot operator, right? But since it is a string here, we can't access by dot operator. So we will have to use our square bracket notation, and there we will pass our index. So that is what we are doing it here. So we will be writing it like this: if our object of that character exists, this means that only. So we will declare one more variable and we will store into that. As of now, here I am not doing that. When we come down, I will show you that as well. Okay, so here we are going to check it like this: if obj of ARR of I is there, then you what do? You increment it. So we will write here what? Increment it. Increment by what? 1. So it will increase the count. If it does not exist, then what you do? You come here and you write here obj of ARR of I is equal to 1. You initialize it by 1. If it exists, it will increment it. It will keep on incrementing it. If it does not exist, it will what do? It will initialize it 1. Now in the beginning, what it will do, for the first time, it is not going to find any character, right, inside this. So then what it will do? It will come here and initialize it 1. And when the loop is running, it is going to find out, right, this character exists. So it will increment that by 1. So that is what is the logic. If that character exists, you please increment by 1. If that character does not exist, you please initialize that character by 1. That is how we will get an object. So what we will get? So finally here we will get, you know what, inside that object, A colon you will get 3. Then after that what you will get? You will get B colon 2. And after that you are going to get C colon 1. So this is the output of that particular object finally you are going to get. But this is not the final output. Now, if you see this particular output, this is our final object, right? And now if you see your line number 6 output, it is similar. It is not the exact. So we have reached to somewhere, right, that we are getting A3, B2, C1. But this is a string and this is an object. So we have to reach to this point. So what we will do, we will have to iterate over this object also. And the best way to iterate over an object is what? By using a for in loop. Now how we are going to write this for in loop? We will write here what? For, and we will write here what? Let key in obj. Okay, like this we are going to write it. And what we will do, we will come here and we will write our flower braces, and we will just console here our key, and we will console also obj of key. Okay, and we will see what do we get it in the output, and then we will improvise our console.log statement to reach to this output. Okay, so that we are going to see it in our function itself. Okay, so this was our approach. Okay, now in this question, what we are doing it, we are using a split method. We are converting a string into an array, correct? After that, we have declared an empty object, right? And then we have used a for loop to iterate over our array, right? And after that, we have used it if condition inside it to check the frequency of the character count, right? So what we did, we wrote our if condition. If that condition matches, you please increment by 1. Otherwise, you initialize it by 1, right? So we are initializing it by 1 if our character does not exist. And if it exists again, you please increment that by 1. So in the beginning, always remember it will not have any character, right? So that is where every time it is going to initialize by 1. And after that, if it founds again, then it will keep on incrementing that by 1. So that is our logic we have written. And now we wanted this particular output. For that, we had to iterate over this object, right? And that is where we are using a for in loop. Now the execution of this for in loop, we will see directly inside our function. Okay, so let us come down and implement the same approach inside our function. Okay, so let us write down our function. Let us come down and now we will write our function. Okay, so we will write here what? Function, and our function name will be what? EncodString. And let us quickly invoke it. So I will write here what encode string, and we will pass our string. So at line number 5, we have our string. So let us take the string and we will pass it over here. Okay, and now at line number 24, let us receive it as str. And just to test it out, we will just write here what console.log of str, right? So let us come here and we will write here what node day 57 challenge, right? And we will hit enter. What do we get? 888BBNC. That means whatever we are passing from here, it is able to receive here, right? This is what we have successfully tested. Now inside this, we have to write our approach implementation, right? So let us come down, and first of all, we are going to declare a variable called as a ARR, and we will split our string, okay? So we will write here what str dot split, right? And inside this, we are going to pass just a empty double quotes, right? And we will console it out and we will check here. So let us come here and we will write here what console.log, and we will write here ARR. Okay. Now let us rerun it here. So node day 57 challenge, and we will hit enter. What do we get? We got our array, correct? Now let us come here and we will now use our loop to iterate over the elements of an array. So we will write here what for loop, right? And we will write here what let I is equal to 0, and I should end at what length minus 1. So I will write here what ARR dot length. That is why we are taking less than ARR dot length, and we will write here what I plus plus, right? Now inside this, we have to write a logic, correct, to count the frequency of the character. So for that, we need our object, right? So we will come here and we will declare one more variable called as a let obj is equal to empty flower braces, okay? Now here what we will do, we wrote here directly, right? But again and again writing ARR of I doesn't make sense. So what we will do, we will come here and we will store it into a variable called as a char, okay? So let char is equal to, we will write ARR of I, okay? Now in this, we are going to write our if condition. If our obj of char exists, okay? Okay, if it is there, initially it will be empty, okay? If it is there, you please increase the count by 1. So I will write here what obj of char plus plus, okay? And we will write here our else also, and we are going to write here what you please initialize it by 1. If it is not there, then you please make it 1. So if it is not there, it will come here, and what it will do, obj of char is equal to 1. And if it exists, it is going to increment it by 1. And now let us come here and we will just console it outside the loop our object. So I will write here what console.log obj, okay? Let us come here and clear the terminal and rerun it. So I will write here what node day 57 challenge, and we will hit enter. What do we get? We got here what A:3, B:2, C:1. If you want to see what is char, that also we can console it out. So we can write here what console.log of char. That is nothing but ARR of I. That is nothing but our each character, right? So let us write here what node day 57 challenge, and we will hit enter. What do we get? See here, we got the each character, and here we are just passing it to this obj and we are checking it out whether it is coming or not, right? So that is what we have done here. Now let us come here and we will clear the terminal and we will rerun it, okay? Node day 57 challenge, and this is what is the output we are getting. But this is not the exact output. We have reached to somewhere, right? But our output was what? We have to reach it in a form of a string. That is where now we are going to use our foreign loop, right? So let us write our foreign loop. So I will write here what let key in obj, right? And after that, what we will use our flower braces, and inside this we are going to write. So let us come here and console.log of key I will write, and we will write obj of key also, okay? So let us come here and test it in the terminal. What do we get? So I will write here what node day 57 challenge, and we will hit enter. What I got A3, B2 and C1. That means your key is nothing but your key, right? And obj of key is giving you your values, right? So that means we are able to get it. Now still we have reached somewhere, but we want it in a string. So let us come here and we will declare one more variable called as a result string. Okay. So let us come at the top and we will declare another variable called as a result str. Okay. This is going to store our final output, and right now we are keeping it as empty. So let us come here and what we will do, we will write here what result str plus is equal to, we are going to write, and we will write here what key we will write, and we will concatenate our obj of key. That is what we are going to do. And here we will write outside it console.log of result str. Let us see what do we get now. Let us clear the terminal and rerun it. Node day 57 challenge, and we will hit enter. What we got, see, A3, B2, C1. We got our exact output. What is this we have done? We have just concatenated up, right? That is what we needed, right? So we have done here concat. That's it. So key plus obj of key. We know we were getting A3, B2, C1. We concatenated up and we are updating our string value. This we have done many times when we are calculating the sum using our for loop. Like it is the same for loop. This is the same thing we have done here. So that is what we are doing it. Simple concatenation, and we are storing it inside a result string variable. So that is where we get here final output. Okay. So let us come here and improvise this console.log statement as well. So we will use our template literals. We will put here comma and we will write here what encoded string, right? And we will write here our str also. Okay. That was our string which we passed it, right? And let us write here colon and let us rerun it, and we will write here what node day 57 challenge, and we will hit enter. What do we get at the end? We are able to see this, right? Encoded string A3B2C1, right? That is what we are able to get it. Now what we will do, we will remove the unwanted console.log statements. So I will remove this line number 25. I will remove this line number 27 also. Then we will remove line number 33 also. Then let us come here and remove this line number 40. And we will remove this line number 43 also. Okay. Now let us clear the terminal one more time and let us retest it out. So we will write here what CLS to clear the terminal, and we will write here what node day 57 challenge, and we will hit enter. What I got our encoded string also, and we have got the final output also, right? Now let us rerun it one more time here by using another input, right? So this was our ABC, right? So let us come here and we will invoke it one more time with the second input. So we will write here what encode string, and in this we will pass our input. And now let us test it one more time. So I will write here what node day 57 challenge, and we will hit enter. What I got, A1, B1, C1. That means it is not able to find again and again whenever there is a iteration. So it is just initializing it with 1. If in the iteration it is going to found, so it will increment it. Otherwise, it will just initialize it to 1. So this is what is our condition we have written, wherein we are getting this particular output, right? So this is what it was expected from us. Okay, now let us have a quick recap of this particular question. So let us go up and let us read the question. We have to write a JS function to encode a string based on a character frequency, right? And we had our sample input and output also, right? And at line number 11 and 12, we took the important chunks of the question. What was it? We have to write a JS function. So we wrote here encode string as our function name, right? So at line number 12, what we wrote that we have to encode a string based on a character frequency. For this, we understood the approach also, what we are going to do. So we understood in the sample input and output that A is repeating thrice, or we can say A has occurred 3 times, B has occurred 2 times. So the frequency of is what? A is 3, B is 2, and C is just 1. That is where we have got here A3, B2 and C1, right? So that is where what we understood with this, that we have to use a split method and we will have to iterate over each of them. So that is where we used a split method and we converted into an array, and then we used our for loop, right? And inside the for loop, we used our condition to count the frequency of each character. And for that, we also created an empty object so that we can store into our object, right? So that is where while testing it up, we tested what if in that object that character exists, then you please increment it by 1. If you does not found, then you please initialize it by 1. That is what we have done it, and you got our final output also, right? Then we got our final output, and now our output was what in an object and we wanted in a string, right? So that is where what we did, we used a foreign loop, right? We used foreign loop and we understood that we are getting our key also and we are getting the value also, right? So we wrote here what for let key in object, correct? And in the flower braces we wrote our logic, right, to access the key and to access the value of it, right? And inside the function itself, I explained you how we can get our desired output, right? Now let us come down at line number 24 and understand our function also. So what we have done, we have defined our function name as what? Encode string, and we are receiving as a param str, right? Whatever we are passing it while invoking it, we are receiving it here, correct? And then we have used our split method. We created an object, right? An empty object to store our object, and we also declared one more variable called as a result str. Here we are storing the final resultant, right? After that, what we did, we wrote our for loop, correct? Inside this for loop, we have wrote our condition. What this for loop is doing, this for loop is iterating over each element of the array, right? And what is this if condition doing? It is testing whether that object exists or not. If it exists, you please increment it by 1. If it does not exist, you please assign the value as 1, right? That is what we have done. After that, what we did, we wanted to reach to the final output, right? That is the resultant string, correct? So for that, we have used our foreign loop, because foreign loop is the best way to iterate over an object, right? So that is what we have used. And we used our result str to update the value, right? So what we did, we concatenated our key and obj of key, right? And we understood what is key, what is obj of key, right? And we consoled it out and we tested, and then later on we concatenated up. We were getting what? A3, B2, C1. Then what we did, we used our result str variable, which we have declared at line number 29, and we started storing into that, right? So that is where we used our plus is equal to and we stored, right? And then at line number 46, we just consoled our result str and we also improvised our console.log statement, correct? At line number 49 and 50, we have invoked this 2 times with different string, and what it is doing it, first it is splitting it up, then we are iterating over that particular array, then using our if condition, we are testing it whether it exists or not. If that character exists, you please increment it by 1. If it does not exist, you please initialize it by 1. Correct? After that, we got our object, and that is where we used our foreign loop to get our final output, because our output was in a string format, right? That is what we have done. So let us come here in the terminal and rerun it one more time. So I will write here what node day 57 challenge, and we will hit enter. What do we get? We got our exact output. Encoded string triple A double BC is what? A3, B2, C1. And in the second one, we got encoded string ABC is what? A1, B1, C1, right? Now I will tell you why this challenge is important, guys, because understanding string manipulation and loops is a fundamental skill in programming. This concept can be applied in real world scenarios such as data compression or encryption algorithm. And also I want you to explore how to use objects effectively for frequency counting task in JavaScript. That's it for today, guys. So keep practicing, keep coding, and I will see you tomorrow with a day 58 challenge. So thank you so much, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.